Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary, everyone. We got Mario here for the occasion, along with a ton more in the backdrop, if you look there. Nick, this is a special day, don't you think? 40 is a big anniversary. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, 40 is a big deal. I'm not 40 yet, unlike someone else here.
But thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about Mario and having him be this old. It's kind of crazy to think about.
It really is. I mean, look at the amount of games we have right below us, including possibly new ones at the time of this video. We'll have to wait and see. In any case, there is a lot. Mario has a very storied history, and we want to talk about every single one of these games below briefly and say at least one positive thing about each of them. Before we get to the game-by-game breakdown, though, Nick, I want to quickly just go over what does Mario mean to us. This is his 40th anniversary, or technically Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary. So what does the Super Mario Bros. Series mean to you, Nick?
What it means to me, the Super Mario Bros. Series, is probably playful, right? Because like whenever I play a Mario game, I'm not that stressed out. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying it. It's just relaxing. And going back to Mario games is like picking up like a bike again, right? Like it just goes back naturally. It's just such a good time. And I love most of these, if not all of these Mario games on this list. There's a few I haven't played, but yeah, I playful is probably the word I've described Mario.
That's a great word, I think. Yeah, I absolutely love the Mario games. The Mario series, I mean, I love every single entry, but as a whole, I love it. Mario's my favorite character. I mean, I love the entire roster. I love the games that he's made over the years. Like, it just fills me with such a sense of joy, especially in his biggest moments, that no other game series has quite recaptured for me or gone at quite that close. Nick, are you ready to go into our game-by-game breakdown to say something positive about each and every one of these?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's start with the first one, right? Being Super Mario Bros.
I've got a whole arrow to go through it along the way. And yeah, we're starting with Super Mario Bros. The first game in 1985, both in Japan and technically the US and in the launch test market in New York. This is the game that started it all. This is where it is arguably still inspiring games to this day.
Yeah, I mean, even like the first level right off the bat is kind of like engraved into my mind, right? Like playing World War One. Yeah, exactly. Like going to that and then going to the second world and then finding the secret at the very end. Like when I found that for the first time as a kid, I was blown away. I was like, wait a minute, did I just break the game? Was this intended? But yeah, going back and playing that over and over again, yeah, I do love that first level for a Mario game. It's a great intro.
It has to be one of the most played levels in all of gaming, right?
It has to be.
Because it does such a great job of teaching how to play the game. Even though the game is obviously dated, you know, both visually and even mechanically to a degree, including how you can't even, you know, go left once a screen scrolls.
Yeah.
That game, it still holds up. You can still play it. You can still have fun with it. Yeah, it's aged, but there's still something timeless about that game that really speaks to its longevity, that you can go back and play it and still have a great time with it. Moving on to its immediate sequel, being Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, known to us outside Japan as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, because never actually released outside Japan until the Super Mario All-Stars came out, where it was included there, which we'll be talking about separately. But have you played this one, Nick, at all, or the original Super Mario Bros. 2?
Yeah, so this one, the Lost Levels, is one of the ones that actually skipped on this list. There's only a few games that I missed out on, but yeah, Lost Levels is something that I really need to go back on and play.
I mean, the thing is, do you? Because it's probably it's probably the most skippable of the Marios. This is one of the few times they did a direct sequel, like even using the same art. We've only seen that in, I think, Mario Galaxy 2. I can't recall any other games that were a direct sequel in that same way. New Super Mario Bros. Probably gets closest outside of that.
I was gonna say New Super Mario Bros.
So on that level, like, it's kind of unique, but on the other, it didn't do a whole lot meaningfully new. What it's most known for, here's my positive for it then.
Yeah.
This is the original Kaizo level, or original Kaizo game, if you will. This game is all about trolling the player, where you have mushroom power-ups are actually power downs that are out to kill you with a poison mushroom. You have invisible blocks hidden in the worst spots to try and murder you just for doing a simple jump. You have warp zones that take you backwards, Nick. So at the time, I suspect it was frustrating, which is why it was never released outside of Japan. They're like, this won't work in America. We gotta do something different, which is why we got, you know, our version of Super Mario Bros. 2. But in hindsight, it is interesting for both being a sequel. That's my compliment. It's an interesting game. It's a sequel. It trolls a player, which kind of sucks, but it's kind of fun if you lean into that, and you really have to think outside the box. It's a challenging, punishing game, and if you're looking for that, it really is kind of, you know, fun to play in that vein, because, you know, Kaizo levels have become a whole thing since then.
Yeah.
And so this is the original. This is the one that really started it all, and that's kind of fun in its own way. Speaking of challenges, there's not much tougher than being an adult and finding time for all the things you want to do, whether it's playing games, even when you're being stomped by the Lost Levels, or even finding time to cook a healthy meal. Isn't that right, Chef Toad? And that's exactly why Factor's been a complete game changer for me. So every week, Factor delivers me 5 freshly prepared meals right to my door, based on my dietary needs and wants. And when I'm ready to eat, I just pull out of the fridge, pop it in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and boom, it's good to go. It's like I'm doing a speed run for healthy eating. And since the meals are never frozen, they both taste great and fresh. And it's easier than ever to find the exact meals that you want, as Factor just recently doubled the size of their menu for seafood and protein options. Honestly, Factor's been a lifesaver for me, especially after spending all day covering a Nintendo Direct, when I'm far too tired and burnt out to spend time cooking, and really don't want to punish myself with even more fast food. Because just like that, I have a delicious meal ready to go. Plus, as one who likes to track my calorie intake, Factor makes it easy to keep it consistent. If you want to try it yourself, just head to factor75.com or click the link below, and then make sure to use my code GameXplainFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for an entire year. Again, that's code GameXplainFB50 at factor75.com for 50% off and free breakfast for a year. And with that, let's get back to talking more Mario. Being Super Mario Bros. 2 here, which is, as you mentioned, was Doki Doki Panic in Japan. In case people somehow don't know, this was not originally a Mario game. Yep. It was a whole different series or different game created by Miyamoto, involving different characters. It was, I think it was still a dream world then, where they got sucked into a book. So very similar, but nothing really directly Mario related, except for the fact that it was created by Miyamoto, I believe, which was then repurposed for Mario Bros. 2. They just swapped out the characters for Mario characters. They added a couple of Mario elements, like the mushroom power-up you could get, or not even a power-up, but like that was your life in the game. The star item, which made you invincible. Oh, that was basically it. Otherwise, the only Mario elements are the ones that somehow carried forth from this game, like Shy Guys, and became mainline Mario elements, which is kind of wild, you know? Minus Wart, which has never been seen again. So, what do you have to say about this game, Nick?
I was shocked playing this game for the first time as a kid. Like, I went into it, I was like, wait a minute, like, the curtain opens up, and you have the 4 different playable characters. My favorite thing about it, or like the positive thing about it, I love how different the characters play, right? Like, you have Peach's floating ability. I think, at the time, I was like, I'm not gonna pick Peach because Peach is a girl, but I'm like, wait a minute, Peach has a floating ability. This is awesome. Mario, Luigi, and Toad can't do this. I'm like, this is like the coolest thing. So yeah, that's probably my positive, is like having so much replayability through the different characters in this game.
Yeah, for anyone who calls Peach a girl boss in the Mario movie, I mean, this is where it started. This was the she was the most powerful character in this game. So yeah, I always play as Peach as well, because you can't beat that float jump. And it was such a unique game. And what's funny is, in hindsight, like, you know, looking back at it now especially, it's such an oddball game. And I'm sure it was to a degree then. I can't fully remember what I was thinking as a kid. But at the time, for at least American gamers, or outside, you know, non-Japanese gamers, like, was it really all that weird? Because we only had one game before this, right? Being Super Mario Brothers. So this game felt a little similar in some ways. It looked different, obviously, but like, I think it's more in hindsight where it's how unusual it is really starts to stand out more. But at the time, it's like, oh, it's just another weird Mario adventure, right? So, and I think it's fun, especially, I mean, actually to a degree, you know, almost, I mean, I guess arguably lesser almost now, because of how many Mario elements have carried forth from this game. Yeah. Although there are still some enemies that have never reappeared since then, including, like, as I mentioned, you know, Wart being the main one, which, I mean, he appeared in Zelda, but fingers crossed we'll see him again someday. So,
before we move on to the next game, Andre, I guess you said, like, elements do carry over from this one. If you even look at Peach from, like, in Smash Bros, right? Like, especially with her first appearance in Smash Bros Melee, her down B is the turnip. Her jump ability is the flying. That's straight out of from Super Mario Bros 2. And I love that Peach carries that over, because like not a lot of the other characters have their abilities from that game. So it's cool to see that Peach's traits are carried over from that game into Smash Bros.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, and she even, you know, maintains her jump to this day in like Mario Run and in 3D World. So I would say, like, my positive thing about this game is that the impact it's had in the years since. Like, it had introduced so many oddball, off-the-wall things at the time that it became mainstay series, you know, mainstay series elements. And I love that. Like, I can't imagine Mario without Shy Guys now, you know?
Yeah, I can't imagine it either, because Shy Guys, and same thing with Birdo, right? I think like Birdo was in this too, and then Birdo carried over. So it's nice having those characters being engraved into our minds as Mario characters now.
Also, we may not have a Super Show without this game. So many elements of the Super Show were based around Mario 2. So it's, I can't be upset about it. No, I like the game as a kid. It's a weird one, but it's always been a good time. So, moving on to obviously what is a classic, Super Mario Bros. 3. This is debated, and people still debate what's the best 2D game of all time between this and Mario World. I will maybe settle where we fall on in the next discussion for Mario World, or actually in 2 games from now. But Mario 3, undeniably a classic, introduced a ton of power-ups, a ton of worlds, 8 worlds, the warp whistles, like giant enemies, like all kinds of things. This is really, I think, the game that kind of solidified Mario's identity. I mean, even though Super Mario Brothers, almost every element carried through into the future, this is really the game that really cemented Mario as being like a major presence, like what Mario actually is. I mean, even the commercial for it, was like, for the American commercial, everyone chanting, Mario, Mario. Like, this was an event. You had the Wizard come out, which had Mario 3 as a final segment of the final challenge. Like, this was a huge event. And I know, Nick, you weren't alive for it, but what does this game mean to you still, even being slightly removed from its release?
Yeah, so like the thing that stands out for me in Mario Bros. 3 is definitely like the world map or selecting the levels, because this is the first one that you actually got to do in it. Good, so like going between the levels, I was like, oh my god, this is such a weird concept, but like I'm in on it. Like I don't mind going around and then picking my levels that way. I thought it was an actual cool concept.
No, it was an awesome concept. Like that really is what made it feel like a world before Mario World. Like it felt like it provided context to what you were doing, and I love that. I mean, I always, something about those world maps is really like made my imagination run wild, Like it really made Mario feel like a cohesive world for the first time, which again, ironic considering Mario World came out later. Yeah. But no, I love that. Then of course we had the Mario 3 cartoon, which even leaned into those world maps even more and kind of like added to my imagination. Like, oh, I can totally imagine like these adventures taking place on this world map, And yeah, Mario 3 really did so many great things. The gameplay was super tight, levels super well designed. Yeah, it's another one of those games where like we could just talk endlessly about it, and it's almost feels pointless too, because what more can be said about how great and monumental this game was,
Not to mention the box art's so iconic. I love seeing like people like make or do mock-ups or parodies of it, like the yellow background with the font below Mario. Yeah, like that's such an iconic cover art or box art.
It is, and the way they present it in the Mario 3 commercial, almost like like the monument or the God, what's the word for it? From 2001: Space Odyssey. There's a word for it. I'm losing it. Not a monument. It'll come back to me later, I'm sure hours later. But yeah, it just, I forget. It was amazing. I love that they presented it that way, though. And it really felt like a monumental occasion in gaming. And it really stood out to me, and it still holds up to this day. Still a blast to play through.
Agreed.
And yeah, and that's why the debate rages on as to what the best 2D game is. But one of the games that is often overlooked in that debate, Nick, is our next one, being Super Mario Land. This is Mario's first handheld outing. It was a launch title, at least in the West. I can't remember if it was in Japan or not for the Game Boy. In either case, this was like Mario branching out, like into a whole new ecosystem, which has held throughout the years, including to this day, where we have the Switch that married the handheld and console lines into one. And that's kind of cool that this is where it kind of started it all with Super Mario Land. And it is, I think why it's partially overlooked so much, even though it sold a ton, is that it's a very short game. You can literally beat this game in 40 minutes. Though what's funny is I don't think I ever did as a kid, but it is kind of like a tough game at points. But now I blow through as an adult, I'm like, man, what was my problem as a kid? Like, this game's not all that hard. And I kind of appreciate it for, like, looking back on the hindsight, like, they nailed Mario. Like, there are a few odd things about it, like, there's a whole new setting. It is a game that introduced Daisy, that helps boost his profile a bit, I think, with Daisy fans in particular. But the physics were a little bit off, but I also think they weren't all that different, like it still feels like Mario, and I appreciate that in hindsight, and I have fun going back to it. I think it's aged pretty well, despite it being the only other 2D Mario besides Lost Levels where you can't go left. Once you go right, that's it. You're locked into that. So, what have you played this game, Nick? What's it mean to you? Like, what do you have to say about it?
This game was actually the first Mario game that I owned as a kid. Like, my first one I ever played was Mario Bros. 1. The one I got into and hooked on was Mario 64, but this was the first one I owned as a kid. So maybe it came out or I got it around the same time as Super Mario 64, because I was like, oh, I can play Mario on the go? This is unbelievable. Right. So playing that on the go was kind of groundbreaking. I played it forever until I got my Game Boy Advance. But yeah, like, what kind of stands out for me in this game is the music, right? Like, that first song, when I heard it in Mario Kart World, I almost cried. I was like, oh my god, they did a rendition of this, and I never heard it anywhere else. It's not like they did a rendition of it for Smash Bros. It's not like they did it for any other Mario game. It was specifically for Mario Kart, and I was like, oh my god, this just brings my childhood to, like, the next level. I was so happy about it. But yeah, on top of that, like, the music, the very end of the levels, where you have the different sections you can go on. I thought that was kind of unique for a Mario game. And on top of that, like the unique item for this was like I don't know the exact name, but it was like the magnet ball, or the ball that would bounce around almost like you're playing Pong or Tetris or something like that. It's like the metal ball thing.
Oh man, the name's evading me right now, but I know exactly. Yeah, the fire flower equivalent, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was a fire flower, but then next thing you know, it starts bouncing around the screen. It's like, wait, this doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, and that's what's fun about it. Like, it's something different. It almost added like a light pinball like element, or you have to think about physics because you can like ricochet your shots in a way, and that's fun. Like, I like those differences, and I appreciated them, which kind of carried over to a degree with the sequel, which we'll talk about soon enough too. But yeah, this game really was just it's something again I appreciate even more in hindsight. I think part of the reason it also got lost was because it also it wasn't the pack-in title. Tetris was the pack-in title, and of course once you have Tetris, what more do you need? Game Boy is basically a Tetris machine, and Mario Land was though a great demonstration of like, oh, you can play more than just Tetris on this. You can play full NES, basically what could have been an NES game, just a little bit on the shorter side, and that was pretty cool, and it really showed the Game Boy's potential and kind of set the stage for Mario's handheld reign, which would happen years later. By the way, Monolith is what I was trying to think of for Mario 3's box art. Yeah, from 2001 Space Odyssey. All right, anything else about Mario Land? Should we move on to Mario World?
I think, let's move on. I guess, last thing is, when did Donkey Kong come out for Game Boy? Did it come out before or after Super Mario Land? Do you know?
Way after Mario Land.
Way after? Okay, so that's the thing. Like, maybe people got sucked on Tetris and they went into Donkey Kong, but yeah, Super Mario Land on the Game Boy was like my go-to Mario game on there. I love it.
It's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on a game you may not have actually played, if I remember correctly. We'll get to that. First, though, what's bigger than the Mario Land? A Mario World, being Super Mario World. So this, of course, is the direct sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3, to the extent that it was actually called Super Mario Bros. 4 in Japan, Super Mario World, whereas it was only known as Super Mario World here, so that's kind of interesting. But this is the game that really kind of took the template of Mario 3 and really expanded it, really blew it up. Instead of having isolated lands, it's one giant interconnected world, where there's different secret exits or levels that can lead to new areas on the world map. You can do things on the world map that impact other parts of the world, whether it's like unlocking, a switch fort, a switch block, a switch fortress or whatever, and then that it changes the level design in other worlds by filling in those blocks. You can get power-ups and carry it into other worlds. Like, this is amazing. You could if you got stuck in one area, you could go back and look for another route elsewhere just to bide your time. You could go to the Star World and bypass the entire area if you want. There's a secret special world hidden, which is almost impossible to find as a kid. This game was so full of secrets. It really showed to me how fun exploring could be in the Mario universe. It was always an element, but this is the game that really tied it together with meaningful rewards afterward. You can find entire branches and entire areas that you have never known were even there, and that's amazing.
Not to mention Yoshi's in this game.
Yoshi's premiere,
For crying out loud, having Yoshi here was unbelievable. It's you take an extra hit and then you gotta chase him down. I'm running to catch him. Don't go, Yoshi! And he'll just jump off the cliff or jump into the water. I'm I just lost Yoshi. Yeah, I love doing that with Yoshi.
Yeah, I mean, he's both a friend and also you can make him an enemy, it seemed like, by dropping off the cliff countless times. But he always came back. He was always a friend of Mario, so... this game, for me, where do you land the debate, Nick, of what's better, Super Mario 3 or Super Mario World?
I'm Super Mario World all day.
Yeah, I am
have
too.
To say that. Yeah, I'm all day Super Mario World. This is the one I can go back to and be like, yeah, this is such a classic. My personal favorite thing from this is probably the sound effects. I love the sound design in this game. When you jump with Mario and you do the little twirl, you go through a little door and it makes that crackling noise. I love the sound effects for this game.
They're really good, including even Yoshi's the sound he makes, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's a classic, right? And ever since it got the voice, it hasn't quite been the same, though I do like the voiced Yoshi too. But yeah, Yoshi's introduction, they had a light story in this game. This game actually had it wasn't really an opening cutscene, but there was an opening context for why you were here, explaining what happened to Peach, and I just loved everything about it. You gotta visit Yoshi's home, there's nothing to do there really, and that's what's cool about it. And also for the first time ever, you had a branching path right at the beginning. Do you want to go left or right?
Yeah, you go left or right, yep.
Yeah, and that really kind of felt mind-blowing as a kid. And for me, I think it really almost felt like you were, with this being a more untouched realm, it really felt like you were visiting a whole new area, being Dinosaur Island or Dinosaur World. And I loved how they, even as you went through the pathways, like it felt like you were developing this land, you know, like it felt like you were charting this uncharted territory for the first time, and that was amazing. So I can't even narrow down to one good thing, Nick. Like this game really blew my mind for how 2D Mario could work, and I think for me it's still the peak of the 2D series.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. There's one more on this list that might like triumph it for me because it's part of like my favorite generation of the Mario series. But yeah, this one's definitely a top-notch Mario game for me.
All right, well, let's move on to what some could consider maybe another top-notch game, though again, I think it unfairly goes often overlooked, is Super Mario Land 2. So this followed up Super Mario World and kind of tried to do some of the things it did in that there was a giant connected world. You could go from one land to the next, but what it did a bit differently is that rather than being like quite as interconnected as Mario World, like you wouldn't really find branching paths, what it did unique though was that it was kind of an open world, and that you could go to any world, any land you wanted to, and then complete its levels before heading to another, and that was super unique. And the idea was that you needed 6 golden coins, 1 from each realm, and then you can unlock the final fight with Wario at the castle. And so this was also Wario's introduction through Super Mario Land 2. And so this game really kind of like blew the doors off of what you could do for a Game Boy game. It's like, wow, we have like a giant world. It may not be Mario World, but it's a giant world that I'm exploring in my handheld that feels pretty unique at the same time, and that's really cool, you know? Like, this really kind of showed even more so what's possible on a handheld system.
Yeah, and this is one of the other ones that I skipped over, but hearing everything you said about it, with you just going to whatever island or whatever place you want to go to collect the coins and then face against Wario, it's like, oh, I need to play this one now, especially since it is a sequel to Super Mario Land, which is one of my favorite Mario games. It's like, why did I miss this as a kid? I'm not sure. Like, I remember playing it on like my cousin's Game Boy or something like that, but that's all I really remember off of this game. So it is something I need to go back to and actually play.
And looking back, it's kind of crazy how influential the Mario Land games were in hindsight, at least in terms of characters, because we got Daisy, we got Wario, like 2 like now big additions, and that's awesome. Even though Wario, you know, I mean, Daisy didn't reappear for years, and then Wario ended up being more of a spin-off type thing, or doing his own game series type thing rather than being in any of the mainline games, which is kind of interesting. So it's fun to see the influence these oddball handheld games ended up having, you know. And yeah, and one thing, you know, I think for me, the rabbit ears always stood out. I don't know what it is about them, but just Mario's super cute with rabbit ears, and I want to see that back at some point. We probably won't ever, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah, the first time I saw the rabbit ears, I always thought they were the flying cap from 64, but I'm like, no, that it looks completely different the more you look at it.
It does. All right, let's move on to what's kind of a unique entry on this list, being Super Mario All-Stars. It's unique in that it was a compilation of the 4 previous mainline Mario games, being Mario 1, Mario 2, both Japan and the US one, so Mario The Lost Levels, and then Mario 2 USA, as it was known in Japan, Mario 3, and, actually I'm mistaken, not Mario World, though that did reappear in a later version of this game down the line. So yeah, Mario 1, Mario 2, both versions, and then Mario 3, along with the Mario Brothers arcade game, accessible through Mario 3, which is a ton of fun. But yeah, do you ever play this game, Nick? This updated, like, what was essentially one of the first remasters, I think, that ever existed, where they remastered the graphics, the audio, and just put it all together in one amazing package. Like, this game to me, like, Mario looks like a magician on the box art. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like magic. Like, 4 amazing Mario games in one package? How is this possible?
Yeah, this was kind of, I assume, a big deal at the time because it came out before I was even born. So I remember picking this up, like, when I got my Super Nintendo for the first time, like, years later. And I was like, oh my god, like, I can only imagine how much of a bigger deal this was when it first came out. But because, like you said, it is almost like magic. Like, how did they fit all these games onto one cartridge?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to have that many adventures in one place, looking better and sounding better than ever. It was like, you can't really top that quality. Now, there were a few odd things about, like, they kind of messed up the physics in a couple of areas, like how Mario 1, he gets, like, his bounce off a block is a bit different than how it should have been. I never noticed as a kid, so it never bothered me. I just was so always excited. I remember reading the articles about this game in Nintendo Power. I'm like, I can't wait to play it. And I always had this weird... I did have this one weird instance or imagination of how it would work, Nick. For whatever reason, seeing the new jungle layer backdrop for Mario 2, our Mario 2, you know, in the first world in particular, for what I got in my head that the music would be more like jungle sound effects. Like you hear birds cawing, and like it felt more like what Donkey Kong Country would end up being. Or that's how I imagined it. That's of course isn't how it was at all. I don't know what it was, but I think that showed to me the level of upgrade the visuals were. That was imagining a whole different sound soundscape for this game that didn't end up happening. But yeah, absolute classic. That's probably why I ended up playing the classic Mario games more so than even on NES. Maybe outside Mario 3.
Yeah, and like I said, this is something I definitely need to pick up on. But yeah, I mean, continuing with the Super Nintendo games, we have Yoshi's Island next, which is like kind of an oddball to have in here, and I'll let you explain if like how
this game's so weird because I mean, it's more weird in hindsight because it ended up turning into a whole Yoshi's series of games with more Yoshi's Islands. You got Yoshi's Story and all the Yoshi Switch games and Wii U games. But at the time, like it was kind of presented, especially in America, as like the next Mario game. Here it was called Yoshi's Island Super Mario World 2, though in Japan it was never titled that. It was Super Mario Yoshi's Island, which to a degree was still presented as a Mario game, but less so of a direct sequel as it was here. And but no matter what, it always did feel a little weird because you're playing as Yoshi largely rather than Mario. The Mario was along for the entire adventure, but instead of directly jumping on enemies, which you could still do, it was more about eating enemies and turning them into eggs and then throwing them around. And so the gameplay did feel very different, particularly as it was more linear, kind of the style of the classic Mario 1 and Mario 2. We're going level to level rather than having a world map to really fully explore. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people, for many people, some consider this one of the best 2D platform games of all time, and I think I remember having a lot of fun with it as a kid, though I don't think I ever quite held it in quite as high esteem as some people have, but it's undeniable how polished this game is and how good it looks too, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the thing that stands out to me these days is just how striking the art style still is, with that hand-drawn look that I wish it would go back to at some point, but I just loved how it looked. It still looks amazing, and even the animation is fantastic too, particularly with the boss fights, which could span the entire screen and were incredibly impressive, so...
Yeah, this game, like everything you said, ditto. Like the visuals for this are outstanding. And again, I wasn't alive when this came out, so I can only imagine playing this on the Super Nintendo and be like, oh my god, these visuals are outstanding. Why doesn't Nintendo go back to these with any of their other games? But again, this is such a unique game because like you're not playing as Mario, you're playing as Yoshi. And having that mechanic of Baby Mario when you got hit, you had to go chase him down and hearing Baby Mario cry like, wow, wow, wow. I was like, oh my god, that drove me crazy. So it made me want to protect Mario even more. But on top of that, like, the music in this game is outstanding, like the menu theme or the level selection theme. I love that. I love when Yoshi gets hit by the flower and he gets all dazed. He's almost like drugged out. It looks like he's like hallucinating.
That's
and
hilarious.
He's like walking around and he's about to fall over. But yeah, Yoshi's Island is definitely a top tier 2D platformer.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely undeniable, I'd say. It's a really good game. If you like platformers, you absolutely need to play it. And it's, and I think, had there not been more Yoshi games after this, I think it would be fairly unquestionably a Mario game. But given the fact it spawned a whole series, that's where the question even comes into play. Is it really a Mario game anymore? We put it here, though, because for its importance at the time, it did feel like one. Or seemed like one, at least. Just a weird, oddball one, so...
Yeah, before we move on to the next game, what I think about with Yoshi's Island is what I think about with Donkey Kong Country, right? Because in Donkey Kong Country 2, you don't play as Donkey Kong, you play as Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong. So, like, with Yoshi's Island, I'm like, wait a minute, you don't play as Mario, you play as Yoshi.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, excellent point. And continuing Donkey Kong comparison, this game came out shortly after Donkey Kong Country, before Donkey Kong Country 2. So we're experiencing all kinds, like this was like a heyday of 2D platformers on the Super NES. Plus, like it was pushing visuals in a whole new way.
Yeah.
DKC through the amazing like realistic visuals, Yoshi's Island through the amazing hand-drawn art, plus using the Super FX chip to do all kinds of cool like sprite transformations. So yeah, this is a really magical era in gaming. And that continued with the next game, Nick, being Super Mario 64. I can't just stick with one thing here. If I had to say one thing, it's how revolutionary this game was.
Yep.
Like, it showed not just how 3D, just not what 3D can do for Mario, what 3D can do for gaming in general. Like, this was a very confusing time where everyone's still kind of figuring out how 3D even worked in general, and here comes Nintendo's like, bam! This is how you do it. This is how it works. You got full camera control. He's a character, by the way. Lakitu is your cameraman. You have full worlds to explore with multiple objectives in each, where each world feels like its own open, like mini open world before we even knew what an open world was. Just having the full, like, the full extent of being, it's like not just 3D movement, on the ground. It's in the air too. You could fly around. You had huge elevation changes. Like they didn't hold back in this game, Nick. Like the first world was all about the entire mountain. The second world is going up a tower. The third world, you're going under the water and swimming with a giant freaky eel. Like, every level pushed the limits in this game. You had like a giant desert. It was amazing. Like, again, I had to hold back and how much praise I give this game. It would be here for the entire time. But this game... Yeah, but this game really set the template for how 3D Mario would work to an extent, and would eventually fully come back to with Mario Odyssey later on, and it's just amazing. Seeing Mario's face, like, greet you for the first time on the title screen, absolutely unforgettable experience.
Yeah, when I played this for the first time as a kid, I would be stuck, like you said, Mario's face on the menu screen, just stretching his face all over the place and just being like, hey, like, I got your nose, like, what are you going to do now? But yeah, the music in this game, the controls for it was so revolutionary at the time. I just have a blast playing this. And there's one thing, like, I remember, like, as a kid, I was so young playing this, I would walk to, like, the Bowser door or doors that you haven't unlocked yet, and hearing Bowser just chuckle. I would be so afraid by that. I was like, okay, I don't want to go there. I'm not allowed to go there. I need to get more stars. I'm going back to, like, the bomb battlefield to pick up more stars. But yeah, each level in this game is so memorable. Like, the music is outstanding. Again, we can be here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can be here in Dry Docks. We can be here listing songs and levels so much longer than this video needs to be.
I mean, the first time Mario had a voice, Charles Martinet, Peach had a voice. Yeah, I mean, it was a transformative moment in gaming. Like, this game gave me a sensation I don't think I'll ever experience again, Nick. Like, I still can tap into it every now and then when I think back, but it sucks because, like, I feel like that even what I felt, like, it's harder and harder to remember. It's like, oh man, well, hold on to that feeling. It was such an amazing feeling, and it's one I don't think I'll ever have again. I mean, because I think it was a variety of factors, like me being at the right age, how amazing this game was, and experiencing with the context of what gaming was at that time. You can't recreate that, and yeah, I just fondly remember how amazing that era was, and I think it's, you know, even though the game is obviously dated in some ways, I think the fact that it holds up at all is a testament to how powerful its level design and gameplay was. So, amazing game. Can't say enough good things about it.
Andre, wait, before we move on to the next game, what's one good thing? Like, if you had to package it all together, I know it's tough to say, like, one good thing.
It's the freedom, the absolute freedom. Like, just showing what you can do in a 3D space. That was it. You could do anything. Climbing a tree, something that we take for granted these days, mind-blowing back then. Like, I can avoid a Goomba by climbing this tree. So it was really the sense of freedom. That's what it felt like. You know, I never looked at it at, like, 2D as being, like, you know, being restrictive before, but at the time, it was hard to look back at it being like, wow, how did we ever play 2D games? Like, obviously, I still appreciate them now and still do, even new ones to this day, but in that moment, Mario 64 felt absolutely freeing, so...
I would have to say, if one thing, just the quirkiness of it, right? Like, figuring out that Mario can crawl, Mario can sleep, Mario can get his hat, like, ripped away from a bird, and he's just
hatless Mario for the first time.
For the first time I saw it, like, whoa, this is like a new outfit for Mario. He doesn't have a hat. Like, next thing I know, I want to, like, shave his mustache or something. Yeah,
oh my God.
Just all the little quirkiness from this game just sticks in my mind. It lives rent-free. I love it.
Yeah, so good, so good. Well, let's move on to what is, I would say, probably one of the more divisive entries in the series, at least for a time. I think now that the kids are grown up, there's a lot more fans of it these days. But that is Super Mario Sunshine, which is, first off, we had a pretty big gap. There were rumors between Mario 64 and Sunshine. Like, no mainline Mario games between those two, which is absolutely wild. Besides, like, a port of... Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Game Boy Color, but again, that didn't add any meaningful content. So yeah, that's crazy that we had this big of a gap, but this is the first mainline and next 3D Mario entry, where they did something new with this game, where they went to a singular tropical location. So all the worlds are themed to these tropical themes, which a lot of people like. Introduced the new, the Pianta type characters, and then also Flood? You had a water backpack? Like, this is completely different, and so much of your movement was based around this, whether it's, you know, swapping out the nozzles for different, like, effects, like a higher jump, or hovering, or flying along the water, or squirting enemies. You know, you can you can waterboard your enemies in this game. Like, how wild is that, right? So, yeah, Nick, like, you probably grew up with this game, right? So what's it mean to you?
Yeah, this came out, like, the perfect age. I think I was maybe, what, like, 8 or 9 at the time when this came out. So, again, and between this or Mario 64 and this, like, this felt like a decade or 20 or 30 years for me, because I'm like, I just want the next Mario game. I got Luigi's Mansion. I'm like, it felt forever. I got Luigi's Mansion. I'm like, this is fun. It's short, but I'm like, I need Mario. Where's Mario? And that's the thing. It was the complete opposite, literally night and day, between Luigi's Mansion and Mario Sunshine. Because Luigi's Mansion, you got a vacuum. You're sucking up the ghost. It's nighttime. Mario Sunshine, it's like you're all over the place. You're outside. You're enjoying the hub world. The hub world is one of my favorite things. Just exploring Delfino Plaza or Delfino Island. I just love running around and finding all the secret shine sprites in all the areas. And not to mention, like, having Yoshi here again and not torturing Yoshi, but putting him in the water and figuring out he can't swim. He just like dissolves in the air. I'm like, oh no, I felt bad the first time I did that. I was like, okay, let me see how far I can take Yoshi before he needs to like refill up on fruit, or he needs to, I guess, just live and not touch the water. But yeah, this game is very, very good. I have some nitpicks with it, but yeah, it's definitely one of my high-end Mario games.
Yeah, it's a game I think I appreciate more now. I will be honest with you, I found it a little disappointing at the time because it almost felt like a step back from Mario 64 in a sense that like the levels themselves were more linear, and you had to go from one objective. Yep. You had to complete them in order, and because it was essentially chapter based, where the levels would transform based on the chapter, which was kind of cool. But it also meant that you couldn't play it however you wanted to. But going back to it, I more now appreciate the freedom of movement that Flood allowed. You can do some really cool stuff. Mario is like especially quick in this game. I don't know what it is about this era, but Mario, like, it almost felt like it, in hindsight, like a little Sonic-like with how quick Mario is, and especially with how you can, like, you know, squirt the ground in front of you with Flood and then like slide on it, and which is pretty fun. So going back now, I appreciate just how fun Mario is to control. And you know, once I got past, you know, now that I'm years removed from the disappointment what the game wasn't, I can better appreciate what it was. And I do appreciate it, even though the game is kind of janky in some senses. Like, it's very clear this game was probably more rushed than any other Mario had been at that point, where it could have used a little bit more play time. Or a little bit more testing time, I should say. And, but yeah, you know, it also, like, I do like the focus on singular location. It made it feel like, it almost, in a sense, did what Mario World did for 2D Mario, you know, this is the 3D Mario equivalent, where everything is contextualized within a single island. We can see other levels from your own location, which is super cool. That's a really neat idea. And it really made it do feel like this one cohesive area. And to its credit, it's one of the only Mario games with, like, a storyline. Like, there's a storyline to the story. It's a weird story where you have Bowser Jr. thinking Peach is his mom, but it's there, and I appreciate it for that. So
yeah, before we move on to the next game too, you said it, this got a story. Mario goes to jail, which is insane. They're like, wait a minute, we got the guy. Like, that doesn't look like him at all. It's like mixing up Sonic and Shadow. It's like they look completely different, but the Piantas are like, there he is. He's got the mustache. He's got the hat. We got to arrest him. But yeah, before we move on to the next game, my favorite thing about Sunshine is probably introduction of Bowser Jr. because Bowser Jr. is my favorite Mario character. I love seeing him for the first time when he reveals, or Shadow Mario reveals, that it's Bowser Jr. Like, what? There's like a mini Bowser that's not like baby Bowser or like the Koopalings. It's like it's someone completely different that looks more like Bowser. Yeah, Bowser Jr. is probably my highlight of this game.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, Bowser, you know, I didn't love Bowser Jr. at the time, mostly because it led to what to them forgetting about the Koopalings. Yeah. He's grown on me a bit, though. So I appreciate, again, Mario Sunshine more in hindsight for what it introduced to the series. So, I know some people to this day would love either a full-on remaster or remake or a sequel to this game. You know, people want to see Flood back. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but, you know, I'll be there for it. But again, I do like how he controls now. I just can do without the talking. Mario, you know. All right, let's move on to to an interesting series of games, being the Super Mario Advance series, because this is interesting in that these aren't really unique adventures, though they have elements of it. I actually wrote a whole article for a book about this, about the Game Boy Advance. And also, I should mention too real quick, technically the first Mario Advance came out before Mario Sunshine, but I thought it would be more elegant for us to discuss them as a pack, because the other three all came out between Mario Sunshine and the eventual next Mario with Mario 64 DS. So we're grouping them together here, and more particularly, the two middle entries being Mario Advance 2, Yoshi's Island, and Mario Advance 3, Mario World. Actually got that backwards, sorry. The whole number scheme is confusing, Nick. But those games are more straight ports than the first and last games, which are more unique in that the first game is kind of its own bespoke adventure, in that it's a weird reimagining of Mario 2, Mario USA for us, in that it is very much the same game to an extent, but they added new elements throughout, including reimagining how the underground areas work with like these weird like contraptions, the Shy Guys, or there's giant enemies at points. They remix the boss fights. There's a whole new like Robo Birdo. So it's so it is to a degree its own game, even if it is very clearly inspired by Mario 2. Then you also have Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, that introduces its own bespoke Mario adventure through the E-card levels, which were almost impossible to play at the time, both in that they were essentially DLC, to go out and buy the freaking cards, hope you get in packs, so and only half the packs were ever available in the US, so we couldn't ever play all the levels here until they released the game on Wii U and Switch more recently, which gave us full access to the cards. But if you have access to them, they're actually a lot of fun, because they remix elements from all over the Mario series, series, and it ends up feeling it's like a whole unique Mario adventure with all new level designs, minus a handful of classic throwbacks, and I love those levels. Like, they're a ton of fun. So it's, I don't know if you've played much of them, Nick, but as a series, like, it was impressive seeing the series on Game Boy Advance, especially Yoshi's Island, with it being a Super NES game, but then also having these newer elements and remastered elements for the previous games that do add some new gameplay elements. It represents a unique part of Mario's timeline because there weren't any brand new adventures, but they try to offer something adjacent to it in some ways. So
yeah, no, this was kind of my first taste into like most of these games, playing them on the Game Boy Advance, because again, like I wasn't alive during a lot of these games when they came out. So to having them portable, I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is so good. And not to mention, like my number one thing for most of these, because it is in most of them, if not all of them, is playing Mario Bros for the first time. Right. It's like updated visuals. I'm like, it's so arcadey and frantic. I love that style of gameplay, because sometimes like I just want to play a quick game and I'll just jump into that and just play a couple of rounds of that. But yeah, these games, they're enjoyable to go back to, I would say. And again, on top of that, like the e-reader, I had that as a kid and I tried it. I was so confused at the time. I was like, wait a minute, like you scan it and then you get the level. Like I don't understand this.
But right, I think too, you needed even a second GBA to scan the levels into this game. Like the whole thing was a complete mess. Like it was a complete disaster, and it sucks that so many people missed out on the e-card levels because it was almost impossible to play. And even now, like I think it's overlooked, because who even thinks to check out the e-card levels in Mario Advance 4? I mean, who even thinks to play Mario Advance 4? You can play the original on Super NES or on NES or the All-Stars version. Like it's a very convoluted thing, but definitely check it out and play Mario Advance as well, the first one at least, but it's pretty unique too. The other two are pretty skippable because you might as well play the SNES or NES versions of them. So, or rather, the SNES versions of both of them, All right, let's move on to another odd game, being Super Mario 64 DS, because it kind of, in a sense, continued the idea of Mario Advance, where it takes an existing game and kind of remixes it, perhaps more so than any of those did, though, in that it took Mario 64, added 3 new characters, a bunch of new stars, but all within the context of, by and large, the same levels, but remixed to a degree that you needed to use some of these different characters, but they had different traits. Also, again, for the only other time in Mario mainline series history, I believe, where we had Wario as a playable character, for some reason working alongside Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi. And yeah, this is a whole oddball game, especially given the fact it was on DS, meaning you didn't have a control stick, so you either had to use a D-pad with a run button, which felt weird for a game developed around the control stick, or you could use a touchscreen with its weird, like, kind of control stick thing, which kind of required the use of a thumb strap so you could more easily slide your thumb around. This is a weird era for gaming, Nick. And at the time, I think it was pretty universally agreed that this wasn't a great game, though with all the kids who grew up with it now being at an age where they can freely speak on social media, there's been a pretty large fan base now for it, I think, in the years since. But Nick, with you being a bit younger than me, and you know, with this game maybe being part of your childhood, what's your take on it?
So this might be my preferred way to play Mario 64.
Wow,
honestly. That's the thing. Like, I grew up playing Mario 64 on N64, but at the time, like, I didn't really know much about gaming, so it was like, okay, I'm just gonna play around with this. And then when this came out, I was like, oh my god, I can play Mario 64 on the go. Like, they added all these mini games, which was unbelievable. It had like co-op mode or like a versus mode. Like, there was so much, and the multiple characters kind of just blew me away. Like, having that intro of them all jumping out of the warp pipe, and then you start off with Yoshi, who's like at the top of the castle. I'm like, wait a minute, this is a Mario game. Why am I starting as Yoshi? This makes no sense. And then you have the caps everywhere that transform you into the different characters until you permanently unlock them. Yeah, I had such a good time with this game. Again, like going back to it's portable Mario 64. That's why I was kind of blown away at the time. But if I go back to it now and play it, I honestly would probably want to play with a control stick and like a proper camera. So like, I haven't played it in a while, so I don't know if I want to touch it again, because like my memories as a child might be ruined by that. Oh, and I guess the last thing, the drawing mode. I love that feature, because like just like in Mario 64 where you can like where you can like take his face and move it around, like you got to draw in this game, and that was like so much fun as a kid. I was like, oh, I'm just going to draw like different characters and then just like drag them around the screen completely. But yeah, I have fond memories of this one.
I've been wanting to revisit this game, Nick, and my secret hope is that one of these days they'll, if not remaster it, at least re-release it with proper control stick control. That was my biggest issue with the game, because so much of Mario 64 was based around the controls and how fluid that game was for its time, and this game kind of undid that, and that just damaged the whole experience for me. But I still did have fun with it, and did expand in some interesting ways with having the multiple characters as you mentioned and the new objectives, and also just like my one good thing, positive thing I'd say is, as you mentioned, just the impact of seeing Mario 64, this revolutionary 3D title, running on a freaking handheld less than a decade later, looking arguably better. They redid the character models, they updated the textures, and that was amazing for its time. Even though the PSP would come out shortly thereafter and be more powerful, nothing can take away the fact that seeing Mario 64 DS run on the tiny handheld for the first time was pretty amazing, and which is, cool for a game that was already so revolutionary on 64, so yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal for the time. And I guess, speaking of DS deal, we have our next game here being New Super Mario Bros. So
Finally!
What do you think of this one? Yeah.
Okay, so I have mixed feelings on this, Nick, but to its credit, finally we have a brand new Mario game after years of re-releases, and also one that is the first new handheld entry, the first proper new handheld entry since Mario Land 2. So we got New Super Mario Bros. This kind of enters a whole new, weird, mixed era Mario, where Mario doesn't even quite know what he is. He's hopping between different gameplay styles for the next several years. In any case, this game I appreciate more in hindsight than I did at the time. To be fully honest with you, I never loved this game. I didn't love it because I don't know, it didn't feel like it was doing anything particularly new, though in hindsight, given what the series would become with the new Super Mario Bros. Series, I do appreciate that of the four, I'd say this was the most unique. It had its own unique art style for the time, and though it was built on the kind of foundation of returning to the idea of Super Mario Brothers, it didn't adhere strictly to it. It did a lot of new things too. There were new power-ups, the blue shell, for instance. You had the wall jumps for the first time in a 2D setting, I believe, and it felt distinct, and I would actually like to revisit at some point just to see how it holds up these days, especially given, now that we're far removed from the last new Super Mario Brothers game, thankfully. And I think I would actually appreciate it more now, because I actually think it does stand out in hindsight for what it was doing, rather than what the series ended up doing, which is reiterating the same ideas over and over. So, but how about you, Nick?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this one as a kid because, again, it was more Mario on the DS, which I was looking for, especially after playing Mario 64 DS. I'm like, oh, I want more Mario. I want new Mario experiences. So, yeah, having Dry Bowser, first appearance in here, seeing that as a kid, I was like, whoa, Bowser's, naked now. He's like a dry bone. So, what happened to his skin? He just, falls into the lava, and it's like, oh, I'm back. I'm like, oh, man, this is Bowser's, Super Saiyan form or final form. But, yeah, even having, the two-player versus mode where you collect the stars and you scroll around the screen, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I wish I could play that against the CPU because I always didn't have someone to play with. But when I had someone to play with, I'm like, oh, let's play a couple of rounds because this is so much fun.
I forgot to mention that. That was actually my favorite parts of both this game and Super Mario 64 DS. Actually, I forgot another key thing about that. The touchscreen minigames were amazing in that game.
Yeah.
But also the multiplayer was fun. The Shine Thief mode, and get back to New Super Mario Brothers. I think they had a similar idea in the 2D one where you're trying to hold on to the star. I think right. You're chasing the other down. That was so fun. You could ground pound them, beat the star out of them. That was a total blast, and I would love to see more of that in mainline Mario. I want more fun multiplayer elements like that, but they've kind of stepped away from it. They have the co-op stuff now, I guess, with Mario Wonder and the later New Super Mario Bros. Series, but I love the competitive element. I would love to see them do more of that, because that was a lot of fun in New Super Mario Bros. So.
Yeah, like you said, it is kind of missing from the newer Mario series, except I guess the latest one that has it is kind of like Mario Maker, even though there is some elements of Mario Wonder, but I wish there was more competitive like the older games.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, let's move on to a major title for me, Nick, being Super Mario Galaxy. For one, after years of revisiting, re-releases or reimagining, or even going back to the idea of the original Super Mario Brothers, this is the game that really blew my mind again in the closest way the Mario 64 had up to that point. Because this game, I'm like, what? You can run around upside down. You can go around entire planets now. You can orbit around planets if you jump far enough. It was amazing. The whole gravity mechanic blew my mind. The music, the orchestration, the graphics, being in space, Nick, the story, the deep story with Rosalina, and it actually made me cry with how touching it is. This game was amazing. It blew my mind, which was appropriate for a game based in space. I feel like it really just showed how fun Mario could just be on a mechanical level, more so than ever before, I think. And I absolutely adored this game. It was so fun at the time, and I don't have just one good thing to say about it. I loved everything about it, but if I had to narrow it down, it was a gravity mechanic, how fun gravity could be. And complete blast. Lovely game, still holds up to this day. Still enjoy it thoroughly.
And that's the thing, like, at the time, I was playing some other games. Maybe I thought Mario was too babyish. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to play this now. I'm on the PlayStation. But eventually I got back to it. I'm like, oh my God, what am I missing out on? This game is absolutely amazing. And I think the one thing that kind of, like, strayed me away from playing it was in Sonic Adventure 2, you eventually go to space in that game, and they have gravity mechanics in that, and it is terrible. Like, that's one of the reasons why I prefer Sonic Adventure 1 over Sonic Adventure 2. It's like, I don't like the gravity mechanics in that. And then when Mario Galaxy came out, I was like, do I really have to deal with more space things? But eventually I got older and I got into Galaxy. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much better than Sonic Adventures 2 Gravity. So I got into it with that. Again, the introduction of Rosalina, a brand new Mario character that we haven't seen, like a new Mario character in some time. Right. So having her there and the music on top of that, oh my God, it brings a tear to my eyes when I hear some of the music from this game. Because like you said, it's fully orchestrated. So like some of these songs, I'm like, oh my God, these are memorable Mario songs.
It felt epic. Everything about the presentation felt amazing. It's like, I've never seen Mario at this level before. This polished, this fun, this radical rethinking of how Mario can work, while still staying true to the fundamentals of what a Mario game is. Like, it's still very much a 3D platformer. Yep. I'd say it's perhaps more true to the 2D games than any of the other 3D ones up to this point, which is saying something. And a complete blast. And which they reiterate on soon enough, which we'll get to. But for now, do we move on to the next major game, Nick?
Yeah, the next major game being New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And again, like, at this time, I don't think we were at the fatigue of the New Super Mario Bros. Yet. So, like, when this came out, I was excited about it because it brought in the multiplayer aspect. And even though it's chaotic and frantic, I love, like, trolling my friends and like picking them up and tossing them off the stage, and then they're in the little bubble and you have to go pick them off the stage somewhere, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna get you, like, you're holding me back, I'm just gonna run to the end of the stage. So like, I do have some fond memories of playing this game.
I do too, in that, I mean, like, if you throw 4 people in almost any game, it's gonna be a good time, right? Like 4 of your friends, like, it's fun. And I think that's what I felt here too. Like, it was Mario in a new way. We never had a cooperative a game you could play together at the same time, which was pretty amazing. The downside, though, is for me, is that it felt like it came at the expense of playing the game ordinarily, like as a single-player Mario game. Yeah. It felt kind of lacking, wasn't doing a whole lot new. The level designs are very clearly designed with 4 people in mind. Yep. It had a lot of, like, wide open space, a lot of wide platforms. It just wasn't very interesting to me. And this is where, maybe the fatigue hadn't fully set in yet, but the steps, like, it was leading to that, you know?
Was.
And so I find this game, in hindsight, to be fairly forgettable, and especially with New Super Mario Bros. U coming down the line, which I think some consider superior to it. And this is where the 2D games just start blending together for me. But I will give it credit for starting the multiplayer component in these games, and for that it was fun. So, but we didn't have the competitive multiplayer of the original DS game, which I love. So yeah. Anyways, and now we have this crazy, like, for me at least, subjectively, quality dip, where we go from the amazing Mario Galaxy to the dip in Mario Wii, even though it's still a good game, to, again, what I think is an incredibly quality game in Mario Galaxy 2, which at the time I felt like I was a little concerned for a few reasons. I'm like, what? They're going back to the Mario Galaxy well already? And also, will this detract from what Mario Galaxy is? But I was a fool. This game is amazing. It takes what Mario Galaxy did in almost every level, maybe minus a story, or not reimagines it, but like, it kind of like pushes it as far as it can, the concepts of everything. With, it introduces Yoshi and the amazing pointer controls for controlling his tongue, where you can eat enemies or swing from platforms. And this game I can go back to even more than Mario Galaxy and have a complete blast. Like, it's a danger for me anytime I need to get gameplay from this game, but I just get sucked back into it. Like, I can't quit, Nick. This game is so freaking addictive. It's so fun, and I think, to me, might be the most fun Mario game they've ever made. It's just a blast in every cylinder, and I think, honestly, even blows past the original in every way except for maybe the story. I mean, pretty concretely the story, but that aside, I love it. So,
like, everything you said, like, my positive is I haven't played it yet. I know people in the comments are gonna go insane about it because, again, at this time I had a little bit of, like, fatigue because the New Super Mario Bros. Wii and then Mario Galaxy 2 at the time. I was like, all right, do I really want to play more Mario right now? I was on to other games at the time, and now I've waited so many years. It's like, okay, Nintendo, just please port it to something by this point, because I want to play, like, an HD remake or a port of something of this, because I hear great things, so just like you were saying about this game. So I really need to play it. Nintendo, please put it somewhere where I can play it.
You absolutely do need to play it, Nick. It is a masterpiece. So let's hope they remaster it if it hasn't already been announced by the time we made this video. So, all right, well, let's move on to another. Oh, actually, one point about this. This game, even though this may seem contradictory given my feelings on the new Super Mario Brothers games, but I do like that, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of the only times in the series history where they made a direct sequel. I think there is merit to that, where you can take the ideas of one game and build upon them in another without going so far that people get sick of it, and I would like to see even more of that. We never got that Odyssey 2, unless it's been announced since, and that was a game, like it's a template that could have been perfect for another sequel, right? So, which if there is another game we'll talk about at the end in a revision to this video. Anyways, moving on to the next major 3D entry, though on the handheld this time, being Super Mario 3D Land, which I don't know if you knew this, Nick, was the return of the Raccoon Mario for the first time. I say this because I was at E3 when this was announced, and outside of the press conference, right immediately after, you could play the game on 3DS for the first time. I think this is was this the first year? Oh, maybe it's the second year 3DS. I can't remember.
Second year.
Yeah, second year. But they had 3DSs strapped to women or like ladies presenting, back when they did that in that era, and all of them were announcing it in the way like, Raccoon Mario's back for the first time. It was echoed in my head. They were clearly told to repeat like every 15 seconds. I forget exactly what it says, but they repeated that basic idea over and over. In any case, first time seeing like a proper 3D Mario on a stereoscopic 3D display. The return of Raccoon Mario, or Tanuki Mario rather, Tanuki Mario, I think.
Tanuki,
and it was cool seeing a proper 3D Mario on a handheld. Wasn't my favorite, but I appreciate it for what it was at the time. But how about you, Nick, as being younger at this point? How was it for you seeing an original 3D Mario on a handheld?
So again, at this time, like there was so much like Mario fatigue. Like I didn't buy this at launch. I borrowed it from a friend in high school. He gave it to me, and next thing I know, I beat the game in like a week or two. I'm like, oh my god, I'm hooked on this. Having the 3D for a platformer game actually helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people were on board with it or not, but I played most of this game in 3D, at least for my first time around. My second time around, I was like, okay, like I got the gist of it. I'm pretty familiar with the controls, with the level layout. On top of that, like the final level or like the secret world or the last one where you have to get to the secret world or whatever, that drove me crazy. I remember how difficult that was. I remember I got to like 99 lives, and by the time I was done with it, I was maybe at like 60 or 50. I was like, oh my god, this is draining my lives. But I guess it doesn't matter because I made it so far through this game. But yeah, this one, I want to go back and play it, but again, it's only on 3DS. So like my best thing to go back and play it is kind of like revisiting 3D World, which is on this list and we'll get to. And again, I love that one just as much as I love this one. But yeah, Super Mario 3D Land is something that if you haven't played it, if you have a chance to play it, I recommend everyone to try it out.
Well, and the downside with this game is even if they re-release it, like it's almost certain that you're losing a major component in that stereoscopic 3D. So unless they re-release it in VR or with a 3D screen out on, which I doubt they'll do, you can't experience this game as it was meant to. And I do think it adds meaningfully to it. I mean, to a degree that for me for a while, playing 2D games after the 3DS, like on the flat screen, felt weird. It's like I like the stereoscopic. So. Yeah, so I appreciate this game for what it did. What's interesting is it kind of, I would say, up until 3D World, was the most faithful recreation of the 2D Mario idea in the 3D space. Like this to me, it almost felt like, what Mario 64 could have been back in, had they been more conservative with the idea of what a 3D Mario could be, at that time. So I like it now more in hindsight, I think, just because it is a different take on Mario, and that's a more typical 3D platformer, and maybe I'll like it more. But at the time, I was still like hungry for that more, either Galaxy experience or more open 3D experience, which this game very much was not. But yeah, I would love to revisit one of these days. So.
Yeah, before we move on to the next game, I guess, one more thing, which I love. Not my favorite thing about it, but I do love this section or level. They had, like, the Zelda levels that were, like, top down.
Yeah, that was cool.
And, like, I think they would make the sound effects, like, when you open up a door or something. Like that. Like, you would use the firepower to, like, set off the torches or the lights or whatever. But, yeah, when I played that as the first time, I was like, oh, my God, Zelda's here? Like, this makes no sense in a Mario game. But I'll take it.
It was a random crossover. And we didn't even touch on the fake-out of the game, where you think you beat the game, but you're only halfway done. There's an entire second quest where you play as Luigi, I believe, right? Yeah. So that was kind of fun, making Luigi a major component of this of half the quest at least, and that's where the game's difficulty really stepped up. And I do like that they really kind of leaned into making this a harder Mario adventure. Like you had, like if you were content with the Mario half, hey, you didn't have to play anymore. But if you want the second challenging half with all new levels, you had that too. So
yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next major 2D Mario entry, the new Super Mario Bros. 2. And this game is weird because it comes right after, or sorry, it came just months before New Super Mario Bros. U on the Wii U, on a major new platform. It didn't feel all that different to the previous game in my memory, and it had this weird gimmick where it was entirely based around collecting coins, where there's just coins everywhere, but the coins don't really matter. They don't really do anything. All they do, to my memory, is get you extra lives, of course, I think, and also unlock a gold statue at the end if you collect 1 million of them, I think, or some absurd number. Nick, what do you make of this game?
So this is another one, again, like we go from one that I played, one that I skipped, one till I played. This is probably the last one on the list that I haven't played, but I do own it. I just kept it sealed and never opened it because, again, this was coming out so close to Super Mario Bros. Wii on Wii U. So I was like, why am I going to play this when I can just wait for the Wii U version? Which I did. I was like, oh, I'm excited to play Mario in his first HD outing. It's like, and they're so similar to each other, I kind of just like skipped over it. Again, like I would play it if they released it on a modern platform on Switch 2 or something like that. But yeah, I really don't have much to say about this one because this is one of them that I completely kind of overlooked.
Honestly, I mean, I think that speaks to that point. The problem with the entire game, it's so easily forgettable. I think Amidst the Lost Levels was kind of forgettable or skippable earlier. New Super Mario Bros. 2 has to be one of the most forgettable entries on this entire list. Perhaps the most forgettable.
Yeah.
Just because there isn't that much memorable about it, and it doesn't do much particularly new. I will say that like it's not unfun to play. Like you can't play and have a good time. Collecting coins still feels good, even if they don't matter at all. But I also don't remember really anything about it, I just remember I had a time with it, and then I moved on, and that's it. And
I was going to say, that sounds like the only downside. It's like when you think of like a collectible or like a platform, you think of like a reward at the end or something that you can get or you're working towards. So if you like hearing from you just collecting the coins and it doesn't do anything besides like that statue, I'm like, that sounds a little disappointing.
It does. And to a degree, I think that impacted the reception of New Super Mario Bros. U as well on the Wii U moving on, because it just felt like more of the same, while without doing a ton particularly new itself. Though, to its credit, it did bring back the world map from Mario World.
Yeah.
I didn't like it quite as much as that game's, but hey, at least I had a world map. I love world maps, and it was fun seeing that back. But it was just too much at the same time. So it was a huge risk making another extremely similar Mario title, which is already itself the third in the series, just months after the previous one, I think. And to have that be your major launch title, complete misfire, didn't help the Wii U's reception at all, and may have been one of the major components of why that system, or not debatably, ended up failing. And it's not a bad game. Once again,
no,
it's just samey. It didn't stand out. It's fun. It had 4 players again, which is great. But yeah, again, I look back on it, and there just isn't much to take away from it besides it being a refined New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which people already liked. So.
My positive or most enjoyable time that I had with it was, I think, multitasking when I was playing, because I would have the TV on and then I'd be playing on the gamepad. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I could be like watching TV and like be playing on the gamepad.
So you were using off TV play, yeah.
Yeah, so I was using off TV play. I'd be like, oh my god, I can actually just play like single player while doing something else. Was I really paying attention to the TV? Probably not, but I'm like, this is such a cool concept. I have to stick with it.
Yeah, hey, that's fair enough. And it also had a unique gamepad mechanic, where if you have a second player holding onto the gamepad while other players just playing on the TV or other people, they can tap the screen to build platforms for them so they can leap onto them and you can help them get through the game. So, but yeah, they also had this is another weird one. The major new power-up of this game was Flying Squirrel Mario, which just feels like a worse Raccoon Mario. So, and also actually,
it feels like a worse like capes too, right?
Yeah,
because I think you kind of just like glide like the cape from Super Mario World. So yeah, it just felt like an odd addition. It's like, oh, we just want to kind of include a new animal, but we don't want to go as far as like say the elephant from Mario Wonder, right? Like it was just super simplistic.
We're not going to see this power-up in the Mario movie too, I think.
No.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I don't think anything else to say. I mean, I will say that this Nintendo got the hint after this, and this seems to be the end of the road for New Super Mario Bros. U. I know it has its fans, especially those who I'm sure grew up with it. But as a longtime Mario fan, I'm glad they got out of the system because I wanted them to return to what made Mario, Mario, which for me was always pushing new ideas, new boundaries. Yeah. And although they didn't fully deliver this next game, I think it was moving in the right direction at least with Super Mario 3D World. So this is a 4-player 3D Mario game game in the same vein as Super Mario 3D Land, which I think is largely why that game's kind of overlooked now. This 3D World just feels like a better realization of that basic idea, minus a 3D stereoscopic screen, of course, where, yeah, you had these really great level designs, you know, with 4 players you can play, that feel less compromised by having 4 players. Like, you can still play this game single player and have a great time. It had a world map system. You had these weird fairies you're rescuing instead of Princess Peach. You can play as Princess Peach in this one, along with Luigi and Toad and Mario. And yeah, I think people fondly remember it because it's just a really well-constructed 3D Mario that, as I said for 3D Land, feels the most true to those classic 2D experiences, but now in the 3D space.
Yeah, when we saw this for the first time, I think I had a sigh, not a sigh of relief, a sigh of disappointment. I was like, oh, just Super Mario 3D Land on the Wii U. I was like, okay, I was expecting like a mainline 3D game. But then when they showed off the second trailer, I was like, oh my god, there's a lot more here. Like he said, you're playing with 4 players, you're catching the fairies, you have all the different characters that have different traits and abilities. And on top of that, this is another Mario game that has outstanding music. Like I love the soundtrack for this game.
It's good.
Especially something like Double Cherry Pass.
Yeah,
or even having that power up, like the Double Cherry Pass,
That's a fun one.
It's such a good one because like I would try to collect them and steal them from everyone else. So I would have like 6 or 8 Marios on the screen. And I would try to get them all to the flag posts without dying. Yeah, I had some good times with this one.
Yeah, like I'm surprised that they haven't done more with a double cherry power up, like whether in Mario Kart or Mario Maker, which we'll get to. Yeah, there's a lot of potential in it, and that was a fun one. But they made you think about the game in a different way too, and that was a blast. So yeah, for me again, it doesn't necessarily stand out a ton because it's rooted in a lot of familiar things we'd already seen, but it was polished to a degree that I think helped make up for that fact. And also they introduced a major new power with a cat Mario, which did actually feel pretty unique, especially compared to the flying squirrel suit, because you can you can climb up walls and you can almost defy gravity in that sense. And then you can have the aerial dash attack where you can fly through the air. It give you the pounce where you can attack enemies from the front. So it was just a fun, versatile power that made the game just fun to play, because it almost made Mario feel a little bit more parkour like, and just how it flowed together with his moveset. So yeah,
the cat power up I definitely like. I don't know what I would put like a bow on top of this for my favorite thing, but like one thing that stood out to me, which eventually became its own game, was Captain Toad, right? Like Captain Toad had these little side missions or games all over the world. And I was like, the first time I tried it, I was like, wait a minute, like this is like a mini game within this game, and then eventually came to be its full game. Yeah, I was a fan of Captain Toad within 3D World.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to our next game, Nick, which isn't truly a mainline game, but I feel like it's worth talking about, being Super Mario Maker, because it came on, I believe, what would have been the 30th anniversary of the series, which is 10 years ago now at this point, which is crazy to me. And I love this game. I actually, in hindsight, it's one of the few reviews I would have rated higher now in hindsight, because I could see the vast potential of this game, that the vast unrealized potential. But I look back now, like they did so much right with this game, and it was so fun for the first time being able to create your own Mario adventures. And I think this is kind of also what kind of killed off the new Super Mario Brothers series, because how can you top just being able to make your own endless versions of those levels? And I love this game. It felt magical. It had the Mario Paint-like interface. I loved how easy the interface was to use, being able to just drag and drop enemies, being able to mix and match components, adding wings to enemies to make them fly, or giving them different power-ups or different modifiers. Just a complete blast. I love this game. Endless replayability, and yeah, I just adore it in hindsight. And I wish there was still a good way of playing and sharing levels with the original game, which there isn't anymore. Oh, plus all the amiibo costumes you could use.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, and that's something that didn't carry over into Mario Maker 2. Like, I remember like grabbing all my amiibos and was like, oh, scan. Like, I want to unlock all these amiibos just so I can place in different levels or have themed levels based off of those characters. But yeah, if I have to put like one like super positive thing on this one, I loved using the gamepad, right? Like, even up to this point on the Wii U, there wasn't too many games besides like Nintendo Land. I loved using the gamepad. Zombie U, multiplayer mode, I was a big fan of using the gamepad. And then when this came out, I was like, oh my god, the potential of the gamepad feels almost endless like this. Like, I wished, at this point in time, like, I didn't know the future of the Wii U, but I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what else Nintendo's going to do with, like, creation tools, such like Mario Maker. But at that point, I don't think we had much faith or much hope in the Wii U after that. So,
no, I know that.
But yeah, the gamepad is something I would highly... like my high for this game.
Yeah, this game, both that and also just showing how fun it can be to be enabled by Nintendo to be creative. And I love that. I wish we saw more of that from them. They've dabbled with it a little bit in again, Mario Maker 2, which we'll get to, Game Builder Garage, which is still kind of complicated to use, but I would love to give us more tools like this. But it felt magical, being able to make your own Mario adventure easily, or levels, easily share with others for them to play. And yeah, it honestly is like, I think one of the best games that they made in the last 10 years. I adore this game. It's fantastic, and I think it's so fun that they gave us the power to finally make our own Mario adventures.
Yep.
And I would love if they leaned into that in the future even more. Yeah.
And the thing leading up to it is just like it feels so Nintendo that it's not Nintendo, because I'm trying to think of other games up until this point that Nintendo was like, oh, here's a creation tool based on so and so game, have a way with it. Maybe like Smash Bros with the Sage creator, and I would have a blast with that in Smash Bros Brawl. But like up to this point, I don't think there was really anything else. Maybe Mario Paint if you want to count that, but again, that's just kind of like a painting creation tool. But like having the full set as like the developers to make your own level and share it with people, I was like, this is outstanding. This is a blast.
Yeah, I do it for like other platformers, maybe 3D ones, you know, like I would, or just give us a toolbox to make our own games even with easier than Game Builder Garage. So yeah, I love the potential of it, and I hope to see more from them in the future. And again, maybe we have by this point. All right, moving on to the next major 3D Mario, Nick. The next major console 3D Mario that for me like returned to not just the same kind of like the line of series with like, you know, from Mario 64 to Sunshine to Galaxy and Galaxy 2 to that idea of like revolution, but also mostly Mario 64 being these sandbox environments, an amazing new ability with being able to capture enemies and take them over. Nick, I love this game. I went back to revisit recently after Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'm like, this game is still so magical. Like everything, it's just Mario firing on all cylinders once again. Yep. It's one of my favorite Mario games of all time. Like it's the only Mario game that made me tear up at 3 different points. Yeah. I mean, granted, mostly through just a power of nostalgia, but it was just an amazing feeling, like being able to see Mario in this new way while still evoking the ideas of the original. I had a complete blast. A magical game. The music, the presentation, the graphics, everything's so good. I loved it. Again, it's one of those games I could be sitting here forever talking about, so.
Yeah, and the same thing with me. This is my favorite Mario game of all time. Wow. I absolutely love this game. I play this game every single year because it doesn't take me that long to get through it. Maybe like 5 to 10 hours. It's really quick for me now. I don't try to speed run it. I'm just like, I played this game so many times that I know what to do everywhere and find all the stars to move on to the next level. But yeah, the first time playing it, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my god, this reminds me of playing like Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64, right? Where you have Banjo and you have the different transformations, but at the time, like Banjo-Kazooie, you're really limited. It's like, oh, you can only use like so many movements for that character. But this took it to a whole new level. It's like you throw the cap, you're the character, it makes perfect sense. You have like 1 or 2 moves for that enemy that you take over. I'm like, this is just outstanding. Having the New Donk City celebration, again, I think that's probably the part that you teared up at. Same thing with me. I was like, this is just magical. And then having like the moon in the background and kind of having a story around that, like Bowser's going to each of these locations to kind of steal things to supply for his wedding. It's like, oh my god, this is a story that like I didn't really know I needed for a Mario game. But eventually you get to the wedding, which is on the moon. You run into the chapel or whatever. You're like, hey, like, I'm stopping the wedding, like, don't do it. And then Bowser just grabs the ring and you just fall into the final boss fight. And then after that, you take control of Bowser, which I'm like, oh my god, like, this is amazing. Yeah, like, this kind of led way for, like, Donkey Kong Bonanza, right? Like, you have Peach on Mario's back, which is actually Bowser. You're just punching and breaking things. Yep. I'm like, oh my god, this is it, what led way for Donkey Kong Bonanza. Yeah, again, I could talk about this game at, like, a nauseum, because this is, hands down, my favorite Mario game. The music, outstanding, everything. Yeah.
Truly a magical experience. I can't really add much more than what you said, but... yeah, just and as you actually with the story element you mentioned, that itself was kind of like a throwback to Sunshine, and that it had a story. Yeah. You know, that it had a through line throughout the game. Maybe not quite as much as Sunshine, but it was there, and I did appreciate that, even if it led to the kind of divisive ending with Peach like turning down Mario, right? And it was like, oh, does Peach hate Mario now? Like what? It's like, no, the time just wasn't right. Okay, but yeah, I adore this game. Like I said, I had a total blast revisiting it recently, and I think I do hold up there as one of my favorite Marios of all time. I honestly, it's like right after Mario Galaxy 2 was like just being so fun to revisit, you know. So yeah,
and that's the thing. Like I have to play Mario Galaxy 2. Once I do, it will probably be up there with Mario Odyssey. But Mario Odyssey is hands down. Again, I'll play that game every single year until I die. Like it is hands down my favorite Mario game. That's great. Yeah, it's so many powers. You know, there were like what 40, 60 powers or something. They all feel different. You had a T-Rex chasing you in the city. You can take control of them elsewhere, and also even like the whole like underground area, like in the Wooded Kingdom, legit spooky. Yeah, you have that T-Rex like lurking around in the background, and then I randomly came across him. He's like chasing me. Like, oh my god, this is scary. Like so many different emotional, like the range of emotions in that Mario game is kind of amazing. So, all right.
let's move on to our next Mario, being Super Mario Maker 2. So again, not a mainline game, but it is a spin-off, or a sequel rather, to another game we just discussed. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. In many ways, I found it a little disappointing compared to the first in how it didn't evolve as much as I would have liked to, and the ways it did change it were kind of annoying, because like they had the different, like the 3D world theme. Loved the idea. I hated that you couldn't easily flip between different themes though with using it. You had to reset everything you had laid out when you switched to it or switched away from it, and that was disappointing. But I did like they added multiplayer online, which is great. You know, it added some fun new power-ups. I liked that you had the Link power-up now, which actually changed your abilities. There were a few others like that as well, if I remember correctly, and yeah, like there were some good ideas here. It just like it felt like they held back a little too much for what a sequel should have been. But what's your take, Nick?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it seemed like it ended support relatively quickly. Like, I think it came out with that update where it added the islands, like you can make like your own world. You can make your own world map. And shortly after that, I was like, oh, is there going to be more that we're going to get? And that was kind of it. Like, the amiibos aren't even here, which is like an odd thing. So that what kind of gives me hope, if it hasn't been announced already, like that a Mario Maker Switch 2 edition is going to happen. If not, Super Mario Maker 3D is what I want on the table. But yeah, like I'll still go back to this every once in a while and kind of revisit my levels that I spent like hours upon hours making. But yeah. Once the next one comes out, it's like, yeah, I'll be spending a lot of time building in those games.
You know, and actually that is a good point. Like, I cannot deny that I had, for the period of time I was making levels for this game, I had a lot of fun. And that's the case for the first game as well. More so for the first game's case. I still have a blast with this one. I made a sequel to my Borderline Impossible Super Meat Brothers level, and I had a total blast making that in this one, along with other levels too. So yeah, still a great game, and still a lot of good ideas I hope to see again in the future, if they haven't already been announced by the time of this video. So alright, let's move on to another kind of odd game here, Nick, being technically Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, of which we're focusing only on the second half. The first half is basically the same game, though it does play better because they enhance the character speeds. I want to talk about Bowser's Fury, though, because this is essentially a brand new Mario. It is technically a full-on Mario adventure, albeit a little bit on the shorter side, but it does some unique things, because it gives you that classic style of Mario gameplay with power-ups in a fully open 3D world, which is crazy, like more open than any other Mario game has been before, and that you can literally go anywhere once you open access to those regions, but they do appear, you know, as you go through the adventure. And I loved it. Like, it was such a neat idea. And then, you know, with them all being set in an ocean, then you had the recurring Bowser fights throughout the game, which added a whole new unique element, which also like would change the difficulty in real time, because he's like shooting flames at you as you're just trying to complete your objectives. I love this game too. I mean, it may not quite reach the highs of my other favorite Marios like Galaxy 2 and Mario Odyssey, but in terms of replayability, it's right up there. Like, this game is a complete blast. Every time I play it, you know, and I think its shortness helps it. But I can get through it in like 4 or 5 hours, and I have a total blast each time.
Yeah, I'm on board with this one. I go back to it all the time to play, especially like when I go to visit one of my friends. I jump on the train, I'm like, oh, I can beat this game within like half the time it takes me to get there or so, like on the way back as well. But yeah, like having all the different power-ups, having Bowser Jr. there, again, he's my favorite, even though it was like the odd co-op thing. I love how he still like kind of follows you around, having the super transformation, which felt like Super Saiyan Mario, which was odd to say, but like when he's in the giant cat Mario fighting Bowser. Yeah, and having those levels that felt more like, I guess I want to say like 3D World, because like even though it was open world and you can kind of get to them in multiple ways, it felt like 3D World style of levels, because they're just all planted in this large open world. So again, like when we first saw it for the first time, I don't think most of us expected what it was going to be, but I was happy the way it turned out, like the end results. And I don't know what the next 3D Mario is going to look like. Like, is it going to take a shape like this game? Is it going to take it like Odyssey? But again, like this is one I can go back to and play time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, that you said it all exactly. So it's a lot of fun, and it could show the potential of how that it can build on for a future 3D Mario, which again, we may even know by this point. Yeah. I don't know, so hopefully, but yeah, it really made me excited for the future of Mario. Because like, oh, they still get what makes a 3D Mario, even when they're doing these shorter spin-off adventures, quasi spin-off. And I would love for them to explore more like this. I'm fine with shorter adventures if it lets them explore new ideas like this. So, you know, with the open world, the giant recurring Bowser fights, like, give me more of that, you know, like, that's fun. And they also made Bowser Jr. a major component, too, of the story and gameplay if you play with the second player. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Fun stuff.
I'm a huge fan of it. Yeah, and then I guess our last game before we talk about whatever's left is Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the Switch. Which again, when this was shown off, I think a lot of people were skeptical at the time because they're like, "Oh no, don't give me another new Super Mario Bros." But when they showed it off, I was like, "Oh my god, this isn't Super Mario Bros. Or new Super Mario Bros. This is a brand new game without the new in it." The Wonder Flower mechanic, having the world map is one of my favorites. The multiplayer in this actually works out pretty well because when it first came out, I was playing with a friend like locally, but we played online. And like, oh, we can see each other in the levels, but we're not messing with each other because we're trying to both 100% the game at the time. Yeah, this one is something that I'm definitely going to go back to. Probably on my list with like Bowser's Fury and Odyssey, playing it like once a year. This is something that I adored and I loved the first time playing.
It took 10 years, Nick. 10 years to finally get a brand new 2D Mario that wasn't a new Super Mario Bros. Game in particular. And that is pretty fantastic in its own right. You know, like just seeing it from the get-go, it immediately stood out for not just being more of the same. Like it had a unique art style, it looked like it had soul, like it had a lot of care and love put into it, and I appreciated that for being something different and new. You had the Wonder power-up, which, you know, changed the levels in a fun new way, and especially, you know, and not just within the context of the level, like within any context, because these are like some crazy powers, you know, like whether it's like, I'm trying to remember all of them, like there's a, like...
The elephant Mario, which is a power up, like you get the seed, but not talking about the Wonder Flower. But I guess the first one is like the worms, the warp.
The
pipes.
worms, yeah.
They start like moving around like the worms,
or the horde of like the.
the like ox or tortoises or sheep or something.
Or changing the, just making the environment all weird. There's so many fun effects in the game, and not to mention the badges you could wear, which could change your own gameplay as well. So, you know, I do appreciate that, again, they did some new things with us, finally, in the 2D space. And it made me, again, excited for the potential future 2D Marios. But for a while there, I'm like, is 2D Mario dead outside of Mario, outside Mario Maker? Because I don't particularly want to revisit it if they're just going to keep doing the same stuff over and over and over. And Mario Wonder finally showed, no, there's still life left in the ideas. And I'd love to see them explore even beyond what Wonder did, and even do more out there ideas for 2D Mario, but I think they can. But I think for me, for a long period of time, Donkey Kong took over what 2D Mario should have been. You know, like I loved the DKC games, you know, both series of them, and you know, it was unfortunate to me that Mario wasn't standing alongside him in the 2D space. You know, he moved on to 3D, and Mario Wonder finally showed it's like, okay, there's still life left in the 2D idea, and I hope that they continue to build on that, whether it's in the Wonder 2 or something else entirely. But I'm just glad it exists because it showed me that Nintendo can still get 2D Mario, so...
Yeah, I agree. And not to mention, like, the character selection here, right? Like, you got Daisy playable, you have Nabbit, all the Yoshis. It's not just Yellow Toad and Mario and Luigi this time, right? And Blue Toad. It's like, no, there's a vast amount of characters that you can pick from in this game.
I just realized we did leave one game off the list, Nick. Daisy reminded me of it.
Oh, Super Mario... Yeah, you're gonna say Super Mario Run. Yeah.
That's it. I don't think most people consider that a mainline game, but I will say I actually like that game more than most. I thought it was fun, and it was our first time having Daisy playable in the 2D games, even before Wonder. So.
Yeah, like every once in a while I'll pick up Super Mario Run again just to play kind of like the remix levels where it has that like upbeat music. It's almost like electronic and there's like a vocalist in the background that's like, oh, or whatever. And I love those segments in Super Mario Run. But yeah, I think the thing that kind of held it back was like the price point at the time, right? Like people were like, why am I paying $10 for a mobile game? Because when all these other options at the time were kind of free or like $1. Right. So I think that's what kind of held it back. But yeah, going back to it, it is enjoyable. I do like it. And
it did pave the way again for having Daisy and Mario Wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes me wonder about the future of Mario here, Nick, which brings us to our question marks. What's it gonna be? By this point, we may actually know, and we may end up updating this discussion or not if we have time. We'll see how it shakes out, but you know, looking back, I mean, even beyond whatever games may be announced in the Direct that happened before this discussion, you know, looking back at Mario's history, it just shows, like, how quality and timeless Mario's been throughout 4 decades now, Nick, which is wild. And, you know, and it makes me so excited for the future Mario, even beyond whatever games may have been announced in the immediate future. Even beyond it, like, what will we be playing at the 50th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers, you know? What's that game gonna be? Like, I hope they have something, you know, excited playing in advance for that, you know, before it, because that could be a total blast, too. Like, just like brand new 2D Mario for that 50th could be amazing, you know?
Yeah, and I'm trying to wrap my head around like what a potential new 3D Mario can be, especially getting off the highs of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I know you weren't too big of a fan of it, but like I absolutely adored Bonanza. But again, like looking at this list of games, like there's so much quality here. Even though I missed a few of them, it's like you can go back and still play some of the older games or some of the ones that I guess wouldn't put up so high, like maybe Super Mario Bros. U or new Super Mario Bros. 2, right? Like they still, even though like we got like I guess fatigue at the time, like they still hold up relatively well compared to something like Sonic, which I'm a diehard Sonic fan, but I know there's been a lot of lows with Sonic, and I pushed through all those lows. Like I played Sonic 06 when it came out. I played Unleashed, which I actually like Unleashed. Sonic 06 is like a different story, but yeah, compared to Mario, it's like Mario has always been pretty solid with quality over like something like Sonic, and I'm happy Sonic's kind of having like a renaissance right now. But yeah, the future of Mario, what it could look like, I'm not sure what we're going to see if we haven't seen it already.
Yeah, I know. It makes me excited for whatever's coming next down the pike, and then even years beyond that too. Especially with Mario broadening out beyond even just games now into movies and theme parks. Like it's an incredibly exciting time. Like, you know, on the one hand, I'm so lucky and fortunate to have lived through Mario my entire life, and I think I would prefer that to the alternative. At the other hand, I'm a little bit jealous of those kids who grew up with Mario movies and theme parks, you know? Like, Super Nintendo World is pretty mind-blowing as an adult. I can only imagine how mind-blowing it would have been as a kid, right? Just seeing this full 3D world, full 3D Mario world realized around you is incredible. And, yeah, the fact that, you know, and the fact that you can talk to kids these days about this common interest, you know, that, you know, we can share these memories together is amazing. And Mario's been this timeless and will probably outlive all of us, Nick. So it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, so I guess before we like end it here, like what is your favorite generation of Mario? Like if you look at the list from like I guess like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, GameCube, Wii U, 3DS, like what is your portion or timeline of your favorite?
Oh man, like how about we choose a span of 5 games? Would that make sense?
Okay,
like,
yeah. I like that.
All right, man, that's so tough. I might have to go. You know, I think honestly, I might have to go with the classics, just because there's a few things getting in the way. But I think if you go from Super Mario Brothers to Mario, actually, no, I'm gonna change it. I'm going. Oh man, this is tough. This is tough, Nick. I'm going. Okay, I'm going Mario World to Mario 64. You got Mario World, Mario Land 2, Mario All-Stars, Yoshi's Island, and Mario 64. Complete bangers. Like, and you're bookending with Mario World and Mario 64. It's hard to top that. You might be able to, but that's hard to top. So, especially with their impacts at the time.
Yeah, that is a solid pick. I thought like before you were gonna start with like Mario Bros, like the original one, but yeah, starting with World and ending with 64. I'm like that's hard to beat. My one that I'm gonna pick is Mario Maker to Mario Wonder, right? Because in between that you have Odyssey, which again I love. I could speak countless hours about that game. Mario Maker 2, which again Mario Maker 2, and then Bowser's Fury with Mario Wonder. Like Bowser's Fury is just a blast, and I did not see that game coming. So yeah, that's probably my timeline and I'm so excited because like those are those are newer games, so like the potential of Mario from here, it's like it's only going to get higher. So even like the timeline that you said, like I'm a big fan of that as well.
Yeah, exciting times. I can't believe Mario is 40 as well as myself, but it's been fun celebrating his anniversary with you here, Nick. Any parting thoughts before we wrap it up here?
I'm excited for the future, right? Like you said, like growing up now as a kid, like there's just so much Mario to take in, like the theme parks, the movies, the new Mario game, whatever that's going to be. If not, we already know about it. Yeah, like being a Mario fan right now it's exciting times.
It's very exciting times. Hopefully I'm here, Nick, for his 80th anniversary in 40 years from now. So yeah, Mario, keep it up, man. You've been great. I'm so lucky that I was born when I was, so I could experience Mario games as they released for the most part. And yeah, here's to many more. So with everyone, thank you for watching. Thanks for being here for Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary. And we can't wait to see what's down the pike, including what we may already know by this point in time. So with everyone, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.